All right, welcome to the Underdog Ecom podcast, where two ecom brand founders are figuring out in real time.
Yeah, we're not here to preach. We're here in the thick of it, making mistakes, testing all sorts of ideas, and really sharing the journey of how we've been growing these brands from day zero. Hopefully you learn a little bit, perhaps come away with some ideas that save you time and money. And so if you're tired of the same glittery D2C advice from those 9-figure gurus, you're here in the right place.
Let's get into it.
We're back. It's January. This episode might come out in early February. We'll see what our fine editing team, aka Jack, does in terms of turnaround time. But we're here. We're back. This episode, we are in Q1, so the rigmarole and the roller coaster and the full wonderfulness and painness of Q4 is behind us, and now it's a slog. I feel like January, we've talked about this a little off air, Jack. Like January's kind of a slog. It's like, I feel like I've been a punching bag for a lot of the last couple months, especially in January. And it's hard to find like the motivation to really dig deep and keep going as solo founders. There's a lot on our shoulders. But anyways, we're here to talk this episode about running ads or growing organically. Going to kind of have a little bit of a debate on that and dig into the weeds. I know this is, customer acquisition is a really big thing for our businesses, and those are like the primary mechanics for that, I feel like, these days. And there's a lot of nuance to that, a lot of different channels you can look at. But from a high level, those are like two different avenues to go down.
Yeah, I just realized I was at an event yesterday, like an e-commerce event and this is part of the conversation as well. And it was really interesting to see some of the different brands that were talking about like how different they grew from the very start. But it is a question or a debate that comes up a lot, isn't it? Because I think they both have their pros and cons, and there's a lot of people that are kind of for ads, against ads, like paid ads. Like you can get some really strong opinions on both sides. So yeah, I mean, I'm keen to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm curious. What has your history been across your brand, like going from the beginning till now? Like, what have you done? What has worked well? What hasn't worked well in terms of going organic or going the paid route?
Yeah, I think traditionally in terms of organic content, I don't think I've ever done that as well as I would like to. Like I'd like to think I have. There's other organic stuff, and I think we'll probably get into this in another episode in terms of like in-person things and word of mouth and stuff like that, which I think has helped a lot. But I think the content side of things, like actually short form, long form video, and even if you group in like SEO, blogging, or anything that kind of brings in organic traffic, I don't think we've done particularly well. I think we've had some organic stuff, which is actually content on our site, which is ranked quite highly for certain things in the past. I honestly have given up on SEO, so I don't know if it still is, but I think that, yeah, I haven't had much history in terms of doing well organically. I think that occasionally certain things I've done okay. I think some collaborations with other people have done okay, but yeah, I wish I had done it better. I wish I'd focused more on it from the start. And there's definitely like lots of cons about it, and we'll get into that. But I think I still wish and if I could say that to anyone else starting, I feel like getting good at it from the beginning is like one of the best things you can do. What about yourself?
Yeah, I've done both over the last couple of years, and I think I've done both well at times, maybe, but definitely done both not well for most of the history of the brand. They're hard. They're both hard in different aspects, especially depending on the industry, depending on the brand, depending on the product. Of course, that can lean itself towards more paid or route or more organic route. Like there's some things that just do well on the socials when you share them and that sort of thing, and people can really get behind it. And of course, the undercurrent to all of this is the algorithms that have changed so much in the last couple of years, the platforms that have changed so much in the last couple of years. And so like organic is it's this like never ending learn how it works and then adapt and keep changing, because the thing that worked last year won't work this year. And there are overall, I think, like high level themes that are always working. Like you want content that pretty much it kind of boils down to like you want content that is interesting, funny. I feel like there's one other sort of pillar of content: interesting, funny. I think there's one other one I can't remember. We'll see if it comes to me. But for my brand, like I've done a good amount of organic in the past, and it was kind of more about building the universe that the brand was in, focused on the mountains and the Pacific Northwest natural scene. And then the brand, I mean, the ecom part of my brand technically didn't start for many, many years. And so it sort of started as community driven effort, and there was people pitching in online and chiming in and that sort of thing. And so it started sort of like, it very much started as an organic community online that grew and grew. And then I launched the shop after several years of that. And so organic's always kind of been a piece of the puzzle. I didn't adapt as quickly as I would have liked with how the algorithms and social media platforms have changed. And so over the last couple of years, organic has been crazy difficult because the stuff that was working in the past pretty much completely dead now, and so it doesn't work. And so that's been very difficult when it comes to organic. And then so I've done a lot of that, still learning content, still learning organic, and like what really makes people tick and what like really resonates with them in terms of what the brand can offer for organic. The paid route, I've been on and off that. I think I started trying to do ads years and years ago, and that was way too early. I remember trying ads before I really knew what people wanted, before I had sort of figured out product market fit, before I really figured out products. And I think you do have to start in some ways and learn it, and kind of become the most knowledgeable you can in that area of paid ads. But it was too early for the brand, and I was still figuring out what the brand was. And I think I probably threw away a lot of money into paid ads on that. And I think that's kind of hard too with like my brand's apparel. So it's like things are always changing, products are always changing. It's not like I have a certain product that sits around forever. And that was a big learning curve. And so I did a bunch of ads, kind of stopped for a while, and now I've been running ads consistently for the last couple of years. But I do think we'll get into this more, but I think the organic is the more powerful of the two. Like that's my preference, and that's what I'm trying really hard on.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head in the sense that you can lose a lot of money at the beginning when you don't have product market fit. And I think if we start with like starting with just on like the downside of ads, I think that is a big one. If you don't have product market fit, or if you don't even understand your customers well enough, or how to communicate with them, especially when you're starting out, this is very normal, especially if it's your first brand. Like I was very much the same. I mean, I look at like some of the old posts we put out, and it's like the way we talk about our products, the way like it's just there's a zero like or very little understanding, and I think it's very different now. Of course, I'm sure I'll look back in another 10 years and well, maybe not 10 years, but a few years and think whatever our last 10 years, but yeah, a few more years, and I'm sure I'll look at the same way now. But I just mean when you're spending money like that, yeah, especially nowadays. I think the thing is to look at it is also is if you started ads now, the way that the ad platforms are now, versus if you started it ads with a young brand in 2015, I think you got away with a lot more in 2015. You could run some bad ads, and you could get away with it, and you could still learn. I think nowadays you cannot afford to like do it badly, because you just get destroyed. Like you just won't make much money. You'll lose a lot of money. Like so yeah, I think that's a big con. I think you hit the nail on the head, and you do have to learn about the ad platform, and that takes time. I think the tough part as well is when you reach a certain scale, you don't know anything about ads, and then you put it off to an agency or a freelancer, and you aren't able to vet the way they approach it, or the way they talk about ads, or even on the metrics of understanding the ad performance, because you haven't done it yourself. So that's the only other thing as well.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that a little bit here before, especially I think that's a really good thing that I would have known years ago running my own brand and learning ecom from scratch. Basically is like, you want to become as knowledgeable as you can in a certain area before you pass it off. And it's painful. There's some areas right now that I hate working in, and I have to eat the frog in because it's me, it's on my shoulders. And I'll eventually get to the point where hopefully I can hire someone to take on some of those things, and that will be amazing. But until that point, I need to learn as much as I can so that I can properly vet. And I think I had reached out to an agency years and years ago with like the tiniest ad budget, and they were helping me like friend of a friend kind of thing run some ads, and I had no idea what I was doing in Ad Manager. I had no idea what ROAS was, or cost per purchase, or like any types of metrics that we were looking at. And I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't understand what was good and what was bad. And so it is really important, I think, to run your own stuff and like you talked about, like really figure out what resonates with the customers, figure out the product market fit, um, figure out what the people want. I think I'm learning this still. It's still a work in progress, but there's so many products that I try and sell of my own that just like ultimately at the end of the day, people don't really want. And like you can keep hammering that home and trying to get people to convert on it on that product, but like ultimately if people don't want it, people don't want it. And so product leads so much of this. We've had episodes about product where products can is really like the focal point. And if you have really good product, your ad can be trash and it can still like outperform a really good ad for a bad product. um, Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. And I think dependence on ads is also quite a big con at the beginning from a cash flow perspective because um, I I met yesterday a brand, a owner of a brand who's been going for ages, and they sell like home scented diffusers and things, and they just grew massively in COVID, but entirely through ads. I mean, like they have like no social presence, and I think they're doing, I think he said between 20 and 30 million a year or something crazy,
Wow.
but they have zero social presence and they
Wow.
run ads, right? And so I thought it was really interesting because I thought because he was telling me about how the lengths they go to make ads work. They're putting out, I think it was like over 1,000 ads through AI images and then 1,000 videos a month.
Wow.
Um, but all AI, they've got these incredible like AI workflows, like chop up ads, and but they've had to like but they're still at 20 or 30 million, still got like revolving credit. They've got like, you know, paying thousands of interest every month to be able to
Mhm.
facilitate the budget they're running on ads. And it's a hamster wheel because you have to keep spending that amount to pay back the debt. So you
Mhm.
actually, that's the problem with ads. I think again a big thing about ads, and this is at a bigger scale. But they did this. They start. I think they were at 500,000 when they started. Like they just a very small business. Then COVID hit, and they just started running ads. And they literally started running ads from 500,000 to 20 million. But and they've made it work. But their profit margins are still very low because they've got debt cycle and they've got ad spend, which is eating up God knows how much percent of their margins. And that is the
Mhm.
downside of ads, is that when you're 100% reliant on ads, and that's the beginning of your journey of starting a business, that it's, yes, you haven't got staff to pay and things like that, and that helps because you aren't paying off to those sources, but it's really hard to order the next inventory. You might both be in the situation where it's really hard to order the next inventory cycle because you just haven't got the margins to do so. And so um, it's a much nicer experience if you get less sales, but they're all coming in organically, and that's a huge amount of profit, and you feel okay about ordering the next amount of inventory because it's profitable. And so that would be another thing I think that I found very hard at the beginning with running ads. And I think we also were started running ads primarily in a time where ads were getting more expensive, which is really the situation anyone would be in now, starting with growing just through ads. So yeah, I think that's another side of it.
Yeah, I think like ultimately, I think the healthiest type business is one that has a hybrid of both. And I think that like I would skew if I had to sort of pick like what I would aim for. I do aim for more. I don't know, maybe 70% organic, 30% ads. And I feel like the organic is really building the funnel, getting the awareness out there. So real life experience or like scenario where it's like you're putting videos on Instagram or TikTok that's growing your following, getting people engaging. So then they see your other videos, they're seeing your other statics, and they're like going to your website. It's all like driving people, driving the traffic. And then the ads can like help bottom of funnel kind of thing. Like they help to get the people to convert, say like, oh, I saw that a few different times. I'm gonna go get it and purchase it. And I think even organic can get people to convert too. Like I've had organic content that's done super well, that's gone sort of like semi-viral in my space, that has led to hundreds of orders and have had people converting like crazy on it with zero ad spend. Like that's been really eye-opening to see that like if you can hit the organic really well, you can I mean, it's hard. I feel like paid in some ways, I feel like paid ads are kind of easier. It's like you put the money in and you get the money out, and the ratio of that really depends on a myriad of factors like we've talked about. But
Mm.
it's like it's more of a known, and especially the longer you run paid ads, you can be like, okay, well, based on our ROAS of their last campaign, it was a similar ad and our product that it's like targeting and our customers, like this will probably we'll spend this and we'll get this. And I think that is important as you're forecasting and as you're building out like 20-week cash flows and everything. You can kind of say like, we're going to spend 10K in ads. We're going to get, I don't know, 20K in revenue from it or whatever. And that is really helpful because you don't, I think with organic, it's kind of more of a slot machine, especially these days with how the algorithm is and how social media is. It's like you're throwing something out there and you're hitting publish, post, and who knows? It could drop dead and it could go viral. You kind of have a gut feeling based on what prior videos have done, and you're trying really hard, of course, to pay attention to like prior content that's done well and kind of keep iterating on that because that's obviously working. And so you have a gut feeling, but like you never know. Like I've had a post the other day that went pretty viral, and then I had a similar post that was like the same type of thing that just fell on its face. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to do well, but I don't know if it was maybe a little fatigue around the product or something. There's a bunch of different small nuanced factors that go into it, but it does kind of feel like I think organic is the vehicle. Like that is the way to go. And there's costs involved with that, right? Like we've talked about costs with paid ads where it's like you're paying with that with your card or whatever. You're seeing the Facebook invoices every week or day or month or whatever it is. But there's also the costs of organic that are a little bit more in your control. You can make the videos yourself. You can just do it with a phone these days. Like it doesn't have to be super pretty. It doesn't have to be polished, depending on your product, depending on your niche. But you can get away with that, and that's a lot easier in some ways, and a lot less costly. Even though it's still, I mean, everything costs. It's either time or money, but
Yeah,
that's
that's what I was going to
yeah,
say. I mean, I think this is the thing with it is that it's the time value of money, and
yeah.
generally speaking, at the beginning, your money is worth more than your time, and you likely get to a point. I don't think I'm there yet, but I think you, with a business, you like get to a point where your time is worth more than the money. So that's, I mean, that's the thing is that with organic, it's so much time. It's a tremendous amount of time, especially with all the different platforms, with keeping up with trends,
Mhm.
editing things, in a viral way. Like there's a huge amount of, I think that's almost much more time than filming. I think filming is like a bit of a barrier you have to get your mind over in terms of like, I've got to get out there and film this, especially when you're doing it yourself to begin with. But there's also just like keeping up with trends, which is exhausting, understanding what's viral now versus it was 6 months ago. And that's what's really tough about organic is that you have to put yourself out there and you have to make the time for it when you can put a lot of time into things that, you can put out 10 videos a week and there might be one video that month that hits like, and in some ways, that's all you need. You only need one video to hit, especially at the beginning. But it is really difficult, and I think that's the hard thing about ads, especially nowadays. I feel like it's even harder for for organic content. I mean, it's even harder for organic content to hit nowadays because of just the amount of people putting stuff out. And I also would say it's very industry specific. I think there are if your product is what is trending right now, or is kind of there's a kind of a cultural zeitgeist around it. For example, I think a big one is like the whole wellness thing that's happening right now in terms of like if you're something in that space of wellness and it's not highly saturated, I think you can do content that does really well just because people are really interested in learning more about that sort of thing right now. And so you can do content on those areas, and it's got a better chance. Whereas there are other product categories where been around for longer, they're harder to, they're not, maybe not a problem solution type thing. I think
Bags.
you and I both, yeah, bags. It's hard. And one thing from my personal experience with bags, I find really hard is I can't just like film myself in front of the mirror like a skincare brand can, like 100 times over. You've got to take the bag somewhere. You can't. I mean, you could occasionally fill a bag like at your house or something, but the whole like with us, like I got to go and take the bag somewhere, and you got to like you got to show off the bags in an interesting way. It's like just showing someone wearing a bag over and over again isn't enough. You almost got to like tie it into something that's interesting to people. And it might be, yeah. And it's just like finding something that's interesting enough. And that's the tough part as well. It's like what's interesting to you is not always what's interesting to other people as well. So sometimes you see a video on, especially on TikTok, I think specifically, but you see a video on short form where you think, I would never have thought that would do well, but it's done incredibly well. And so sometimes you stop yourself from putting stuff out there because you think it's not going to do well. But I'm getting more into strategy now. But I think generally that is another hard part of content is that finding stuff that works for your brand sometimes is much easier than other brands. And then also just having the time when you're running. you and I both talk about this all the time, but when you're fighting fires from every different angle, some emails from the factory coming in, and product and shipping, and ads and everything else that's being thrown at you, to go and find a time to do 3 hours of video that day is to get a few videos done is actually really hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. Like I think about how many times I've just like thrown out a random video, and I feel like content, like you said earlier, like content is organic content right now is there's like a maximum amount of supply, and the demand I feel like is out there, but it's diminishing where everyone has ChatGPT to write stuff for them. Not everyone, but like everyone in our niche, everyone in the ecom space, like knows that you can go to GPT and have it write a script. And so thinking about strategy behind videos, writing out things that actually resonate, analyzing prior videos, like there are ways to make it easier, but it is you have to sort of play the volume game with organic, where it's like, make 100 videos in a month and hopefully a bunch of them do well. And it's sometimes can be a slow burn where you don't know. Have you actually ever had a video where it hasn't done well and then it caught on later? I'm curious.
Um, where it caught on later. I had a video, not that it caught on later, but it kind of just residually kept getting views, which was
Oh, cool.
cool. So I had a video where I took our bags on. I should do this video again now I'm talking about it. But I basically took one of our bags on the plane and just started the video off and said, "Can you take your rackets as hand luggage, tennis rackets as hand luggage?" And most people, the answer is no. And people are afraid
Huh.
to do that because you don't want to get your like rackets confiscated. But I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's going to be okay because I've done it before. So it was even I was like flying
Pretty sure.
America. Yeah, and so I just got my girlfriend to film me at the airport and said, "Can you take your rackets on as hand luggage on a plane? Let's find out." And then I literally put them in the security. I filmed it going through the security scanner. I filmed it putting it up on the overhead locker. I ran that as an ad for a while as well because people were just so interested in it, and that video did really well, and it just kept getting residual views because I think people were either searching that type of thing. Can I take my rackets on a trip to wherever or something like that? And so I should do that video again. But
You
yeah, I think
you totally,
yeah.
that's really interesting. Like I would the video itself was really interesting. I'm thinking like, oh, I would totally watch that even though I've never brought my rackets on a plane. Like that is a really good question, a good hook. Like that's
Yeah,
great. It's a good content, ladies and gentlemen, right there.
yeah.
Can you bring
What
your
one?
product X on the plane? There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Can you bring this hat on a plane? Okay, that's not as cool.
yeah.
Could be a fun, like
But
sarcastic video.
but yeah, what? Tell me about because I mean, I've spoken to you about this before, but I mean, just recently. But like, you had a video that did really, really well recently. And
Yeah.
it might be cool just to quickly go through like your experience with that and like how it's affected things, and and how the idea came to you and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it made me believe in organic again. No. Um yeah, basically I had a video blow up last week that sort of went viral in my space, and I had a feeling it would do well because it's like a really hot topic in the world, the national parks world, which is kind of where my brand lives. And so it was a product that really caught people's attention. They're very fired up about it, and so it led to a lot of people sharing it, a lot of people liking it. Um, and the video like just went crazy. And I think I also had a many chat integration with it where people could comment to get the link. I think that actually helps with organic because of all those comments. Comments can be pretty helpful. I think depending on the week, the leading factor for whether something goes viral or not changes in the algorithms. Like one week's it's shares, another week's it's like saves or whatever. But I think overall, the more people engage, the more people like the video, not necessarily hit the like button, the more just like the better the content is, I guess, the more it resonates with people, the better it's going to do. And that product, I've sold hundreds and hundreds of them. And it's been really cool to see and kind of experience that because I feel like there was another video last year that was the same sort of thing. I don't love how it seems like videos have to be confrontational or like knee
Yeah,
jerky emotional nowadays. Cause I feel like this is a topic for another conversation perhaps, but like that is the downfall of humanity to get really dark about it. But the downfall of social media or whatever, I think that I don't love that, but like you kind of have to play the game to win the game or whatever. And so I did it. It could have been more uh confrontational. I guess it could have been even more edgy, but I tried to keep it somewhat in the middle ground and just kind of talk about the space and talk about the product. And there was another one like a year ago that did the same sort of thing. It was like also about the national parks, also confrontational, and it did really well for a couple days. I don't think that one is as product specific. It did have some products highlighted in it, and it did pretty well. But I think overall, what's interesting about these confrontational type organic videos is there's people that love it a ton, and then you also get the haters. And I feel like the haters in some ways help the algorithm because they're commenting. People are replying to them. I usually stay away from it because people aren't very civil when it comes to comments on the internet. They're just yelling at each other, especially these days in America. And like that, I think is also helpful though to the brand because it's sort of like a self-selection like progress. No, it's like a self-selection process. That's what I'm looking for, because it's these folks that are anti whatever the stance was that the brand took, and they're like, "Oh, I'm unfollowing you now. See you later," which is great. Thanks for announcing your departure, which is funny.
Yeah.
And also like, well, you weren't really a good fit for the brand anyway, so great. Like, we care about X, Y, and Z here. You don't, so it makes sense that you wouldn't be a follower. And so, yeah, it was cool to see that organic video just hit. And I'm been trying organic for a long time, for months and months, and it's hard. I feel like this was the first. I think the video, as of yesterday or the day before, it had like 30K views. And then there was a follow up that had that much, and it was the first video that had hit that many views for me for months and months without any paid ads. Like, this was 100% pure organic. I this morning I started boosting it actually because I was curious, like, what that would do. That would be a question, I guess. Have you ever had a video do well organically, and then have you boosted it in Ad Manager?
I've never boosted a post. I've that video I was saying about with the rackets. I ended up running that as an ad, just like importing it into meta ads and running it as an ad. Um, and then I ended up stopping that ad because it ended up just. I feel like the ad was just like a load of people then suddenly chatting about what their experiences of taking tennis rackets on airplanes, and so it ended up being like less about buying the product as an ad and more about people just having a conversation, which maybe is a good thing, like you said. I mean, I think you're right in terms of like if you like controversial, like anything that like, yeah, there's any haters, it just helps massively, which is just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to develop a thick skin too, especially as a solo founder, especially when they're commenting about your brand or your products. And I think
Yeah.
one thing that's been helpful for me there is I use ComSlayer for social media comments. And so like that helps. Either I write the comment and then I tell it to improve it with AI. So it's not like this vitriol dump of like hate back at them or whatever, or self-defense. And that's been really helpful to kind of put up the barrier, because that can be hard, especially as you make more content that's like more controversial. You'll get more haters. Um,
Yeah.
I yeah, I guess we'll see how the paid goes behind it. But it's been crazy to watch. And also, I did the same types of videos on TikTok, and I've been posting like daily or whatever on TikTok, the same content cross posted from Instagram. Haven't seen anything work at all until a few of these recent videos that I put out, where seeing like dozens of followers from it and seeing dozens of comments and people purchasing and that sort of thing. So that's been interesting. It's like something, and sometimes when I cross post, it's like something that doesn't do well on one platform will do really well on another platform. And I think especially in the early days when you can't cater uh
Uh,
content specific to each platform, like you kind of just have to shotgun it out and see something will hit, something won't. It depends on the platform.
yeah. I mean, there's two things that I was going to say. The other thing is that I think that organic content is very anti-brands, though. I mean, I think like the platforms intentionally, like I was sending this to you the other day. Peak Design, some of their stuff on TikTok. Peak Design, I mean, they're a huge brand. I think they've got like less than 30K followers on TikTok. I was looking at some other, and they're posting regularly as well. But they're like they're getting, or they've got around 30K, something like that. They've got, and they got like videos that are doing like 1,000, 2,000 views, and and I'm just like how are they not doing better? And I think TikTok, especially as a platform, it is hard for brands to do to just get like consider like viral content on, because like I don't go on TikTok very often, but when I do, it's like the content on there is very almost like a lot of time it's like social, like almost like videos about like social problems and very political stuff and very kind of like yeah, like it's a very different platform, and therefore brands can't, for the most part, can't have a voice in those things, and therefore it's hard for them to be like have their voice heard. And so I don't know, I just thought it was interesting, but I think it is hard with those platforms. The other thing is about the controversial thing you're saying. I was listening to the podcast, founders podcast with it, the founder of Shopify. What's his name? Tobias.
Toby. Yeah.
Yeah, Toby. Yeah, he was saying how he'd much rather. I mean, he was talking about software, but I think this applies a lot. That he'd much rather have uh like his own product that's like different and new, that's a 6 out of 10, than copy whatever's a 7 out of 10 out there. Because when you copy something that's a 7 out of 10, you essentially can, you don't have control over that process, and you got nothing that's different, and you're capped at 7 out of 10. If you create something that's your own but it's an inferior product, you can only go up from there, and you own that whole thing, that whole story behind it. And so you start from a 6 out of 10, but you can actually push it higher because you own that differentiation, even if it's a worse product to begin with. I think it's interesting with organic content as well. When you own that differentiation, it's much easier to do to create content that's interests people because you have differentiation. I think it's also very hard when you don't have a differentiation. Doesn't have to be product specifically, but you have a specific story behind what you're doing, or something like that. Or if you do, you need to use it more, I guess, as well, which is something I've tried to learn as well, is you using it more, because that is really what makes you different.
Yeah, like really hammer home the story or whatever the angle is. Like you have to repeat it till you're blue in the face. I feel like I've seen brands that are really successful do that to the point of like repeating that thing every single post, and I'm like, man,
Oh yeah.
that would be so like just annoying and repetitive. And I've started to do that because it's like, only X percentage of people see the small posts, and so it's like, and then but you want to hammer home the story or whatever that kind of like key angle is, because only a certain amount of people see it, and it's really important to differentiate yourself and keep going. So keep hitting it home. I'm trying to do that as much as I can in organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. We probably should wrap this up soon. Do you have any closing thoughts? I was gonna say, like, in closing, let's answer the question TLDR approach, not 30-minute approach. Should you run ads or grow organically? You go, Jack.
Okay, my take is you should start off organically, but I don't think you should wait too long to run ads, I think is the thing. I think you need to get good at organic content first, but don't wait too long to run paid ads, and get good at paid ads, because it is going to be a huge lever for you as you go, a huge source of like growth. But yeah, I think it is, out of the two skills, I'd rather start with knowing how to do good content than ads. I think ads is more learnable, but I think you need both.
Nice. I agree as well. Like hybrid approach in the beginning, focus on organic, learn the story, learn the products, improve the products, build the community, build the brand, build the following. And then over time, I do think that, at least for me, my focus point is organic. Like I don't focus on it as much as I should. I want to. I think that is the multiplier, where it's like you're growing and getting people in your brand, following your brand, in your community, that sort of thing. And then the ads are more there to kind of convert them, or sort of hopefully like improve like the organic content stuff, or the organic growth. That's like the foundation, and like the ads are kind of like the dressing on top. And I think I spend too much time on ads, and I'm trying to focus a lot more on organic, and that's where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Well, that's a wrap, I guess. Check us out, or leave us a review, 5 stars, 10 stars, 20 stars on your favorite podcast platform. We'll be back next time to talk about more fun ecom things, and let us know what you think, whether you're running ads, whether you're growing organic.
Yes.